All right. What's up, bitches? Got a tier list for you. Going to be talking about bike parks. I've ridden a lot of bike parks over the years in a lot of different places. Been to New Zealand, Europe, Canada, and a bunch of stuff in the US. So gonna talk some smack on your local hill. Hopefully a lot of you have had experiences at some of these places and you guys can chime in on the comments. But I'm gonna get into it. Being in NorCal, there's no other place to start than Northstar. This is a contentious one. I'm gonna start off with a little rant for you guys. Northstar's going in the C tier, but it breaks my heart to put it there because it could be so much better. The fact that Northstar charges more than Whistler for a day ticket is absolutely unforgivable. I think what's annoying is I feel like Northstar has a lot of resources put to the bike park. I just feel like they're so mismanaged and they do a lot of kooky shit that I think just aggravates the core riding community. I feel like they miss the mark on a lot of their trail efforts. It's like they'll build a random new lip somewhere that's like a little funky and ignore the trails that in my opinion are the best on the mountain, the technical ones that need just the bushes trimmed. It's like, why am I having to bushwhack through the best trails on the mountain when 7 dudes are sitting around tuning up one lip for 3 days? And then they dumped tons of money and effort into Gypsy Trail, which is an abomination of a trail. It's like they built these massive wooden berm structures that just suck, honestly. And like they took Gypsy, that back in the day used to be one of like the most ripping trails on the hill, and turned it into just like something they wanted to put on a freaking banner and like on their social media because people are like stoked to ride wooden berms. But in reality, that trail, besides a few sections on it, is a total joke. Livewire is just, again, could be so much better. Like that's a sketchy ass jump trail. But what I love going to Northstar for are the downhill tracks, the technical trails, especially on the Vista side. They're just classic. And if you invest the time into learning them and kind of adjusting to the dirt, it can be great fun. Don't come to Northstar and expect like a just fun and easy, enjoyable riding experience. It's kind of tough, which is why I like it, but like, I don't know, it could just be a lot better. So Northstar in the C tier. All right, up next, let's do Windrock. I'll put Windrock in the B tier. I spent about 3 months over there actually living at Dakota Norton's house in a fifth wheel trailer when I was all in on racing in 2022. And I used Windrock as kind of like my training grounds. And that is what I think Windrock is like built for. And the trails kind of ride that way. And what I mean by that is it doesn't feel like a place that is just like easy to cruise around and have fun. The trails are quite demanding, and to kind of enjoy them, you kind of have to be hauling ass in my opinion. Or at least that's like the way to enjoy those trails, is just to keep going faster. So it's not a very mellow and forgiving place to ride. Like it's steep, it's rough, it's pretty challenging. And the terrain is like somewhat sketchy at times. So I think it's an excellent training ground, but it's a place that can kind of beat the shit out of you if you're not careful. Like I do have fun there, but I don't think like the park is revolved around fun. You know, the flow trails are not the best. The jump trail I think has improved, but you don't go there to like hit sick corners and ride jumps. It's like you go there to ride technical, demanding terrain that'll help you improve as a rider. On the East Coast, it's one of the best options in the fact that it's mostly year round. I don't know, it's just a huge asset for that area. And yeah, if I was looking to like go race again and go train and get up to speed, like Windrock is, I think, still probably one of the best options in the US. Let's head over to Europe and talk about Morzine. Morzine is S tier, one of the best bike parks I've ever been to, and one that stands alone in this entire lineup and maybe even the world. I've just never seen a bike park that operates like Morzine. They have like a handful of bike park built and sanctioned trails, but the majority of the riding is just free for all loamers down the entire mountain, and they don't give a shit. Like it's always changing, and the terrain they have is just so good, and and there's just a web of rider built trails that traverse the entire mountain, and it's always changing which ones are good, which ones are not. But the steepest trails I've ever ridden are at Morzine, and like I haven't gotten an experience on my bike that like really compares to that anywhere else. How like technical, steep, and like good the dirt is. It just is like a dream place to ride a downhill bike, especially in the mud. It gets so soupy and nasty, but however the makeup of the dirt is like you can still absolutely rip in full-on torrential downpour mud conditions. And one of the funnest days I've had on a bike is in those type of conditions, just like pushing the limits of what's possible on like super steep, rooty tracks, but it like there's still traction. It somehow works. So probably like the only bike park you can like reliably hit natural, fresh feeling trails with good dirt. You know, it's like go to Morzine. There's going to be at least 1 or 2 tracks that are hitting like that on the hill. It's super unique, and yeah, some of the best riding I've done. Let's get back to California. Talk about Big Bear. Big Bear, D tier. I've ridden there once. I went there for the US Open, but there's not really anything there that makes me want to go back. I think they have improved the trails in the past couple years, but whatever the main flow trail was just felt sketch. There was like random pavers with edges in the berms. It just felt like hella jank. And then none of the other trails were that inspiring. I thought the dirt was sketchier than Northstar, which is saying something. It's like, it's as soft in some place, but like way harder packed and like shiny. I don't know. It just felt like sketchy to me. The downhill track for the US Open was sick, and I think they've actually made some improvements there, but I would pick riding Northstar over Big Bear. So all you SoCal bros can fight me on that. And while we're at it, we may as well do Mammoth. I want to put Mammoth higher, but I don't know. I'm going to put Mammoth in D tier. The main thing that demotes Mammoth is just the logistics to ride the good trails on that mountain are like tough. There is a lot of quality riding, but it's kind of like Northstar where it takes an adjustment period. I think the adjustment period is actually quite intense at Mammoth, more so than anywhere else. You know, these other California bike parks, it's like it's sandy and soft, but Mammoth, it's like a coarser grain type of sand that's like endlessly deep. So it's a cool feeling, but it's absolutely like super hard to judge. And I've eaten shit so hard at Mammoth, like a lot of times, because I don't know, it just is if you're not in tune with it, it can bite you so savagely. But Mammoth is cool. I don't know. I think maybe from my huge crashes there, like I have a bit of a bad taste. Like when I went to race there for Kamikaze Mountain Games, like, I don't know, I just yarded myself a few times and like made it out okay. But like the more traumatic crashes I've ever had have been at Mammoth. I walked out of there crying at one point. So Mammoth is in the D tier, although it does have its place. Let's get down to the Southern Hemisphere, Christchurch. I'm going to put Christchurch in B tier. The adventure park there, they're actually doing a Crankworks summer series there right now, but Christchurch is a solid bike park. It's one of the only ones that is like directly adjacent to a city too, that has lift access trails. Some of the flow trails are really good. I didn't ride everything when I was there, but you know, it didn't blow my mind in any way, but just like a solid option. They also have like a sick ass big mulch jump at the bottom, which is one of the bigger, you know, trick style jumps I've hit, and it was like really forgiving and fun to session. Solid bike park, doesn't like blow me away, but I had a lot of fun there. All right, here's a random one for you. Woodward Park City. It is absolutely A tier material. This was one of like the most surprising bike park experiences I've ever had. The lift tickets are under $30, like dirt cheap, and it's a super small hill, has like a proper lift, and it's got a couple really fun like flow jump style trails, but it has one of like the better jump lines, like big jump lines I've ridden on a mountain bike. to have that exist at freaking Woodward Park City that you can go ride for dirt cheap is just like, is pretty insane. And I felt like I got a ton of bang for my buck. So if you're in the area, definitely stop there. You know, it's not a place I would go like 3 days in a row, but for like a day session, it's absolutely worth riding. And I was super happy with it. All right, here's one for you Colorado folks. I'm putting Trestle D tier. It actually might even be in the F tier. There's nothing that stands out that's bad about Trestle, but there ain't nothing good either. I could go the rest of my life without riding Trestle and I would be completely fine with it. So I went there to race the BME and I rode pretty much every trail on the mountain. There's just really nothing there that's that inspiring to me. I think it's like a good venue for a race, but like as far as trails I want to ride, just doesn't really do it for me. I can't really put a finger on it, but yeah, I don't know. I just didn't have that much fun there. It was decent enough, but like, you know, I would rather ride everything else on this list so far before I go ride Trestle. Like I would be riding there if I lived in Denver, but outside of that, I ain't really trying to go there. Here's a weird one for you. Where is it? Oh, here we go. Shepherd Mountain. This is in Ironton, Missouri. The most random place I've been to mountain bike. They did a BME here in 2022, and this place is tough as fuck. I have no idea where to place it. It like could be in the F tier, it could be in the S tier. Like, I don't know. I'm just going to put it in the B tier. This is one of the most unique bike parks I think that exists. So the best way I can describe this place is like, if you guys have seen the meme, it's like this Jacko Willink spoof for like the Sigma male. It's like, wake up, eat a bowl of glass for breakfast, gargle piss.
Wake up at 1 a.m. in the freezer. Gargle piss. Uncomfortable? Good. Listen to 5 self-improvement podcasts at once as you drag a tire to work.
Do 1,000 push-ups listening to David Goggins. The next logical step would be to ride Shepherd Mountain Bike Park. Like, this place is gnarly as fuck. Like, one of the rockiest, nastiest places to ride. Like, it's flat too, so you're just smashing rocks to even like ride the trails. Like, that was a gnarly ass race. So absolutely like not a place I would go ride for fun, but as a race venue, I think it was actually pretty sick. And yeah, what can I say? The trails are proper and gnarly. So, and super tech. So like, if that's your cup of tea, then this place is awesome. Like the shuttle road is gnarly as shit. They get you to the top in these like army spec, like Unimog type things. I don't know. I could be wrong. At least that's what I remember. So like the whole place is just gnarly. And for that to exist in Missouri, I don't know. I just think it's sick. So, all right, let's see. Let's knock out some of the New Zealand ones because they're all kind of related. Coronet Peak, A tier. They pretty much only have 3 trails on the mountain, but they all rip. And the downhill track is just iconic. There's not really any other track in the world that I've ridden that feels like it. It's kind of just a slot car track. Like there's not a ton of line options, but it's just ripping corners and straight speed the entire way down. So it makes you feel like a boss, feels like you're wide open on a 450 the entire way down. And you just like hit shit harder and harder and harder until you reach the speed limit. And it's kind of terrifying, but it's awesome at the same time. You get like 6 laps in though, and you're just like, I don't really know what else to do. And it can kind of be sketchy. So I don't know. When I was down there staying in Queenstown for a little bit, it was good for like 1 day a week to get that feeling because it's awesome. But then I don't know, beyond that, it's just like, there's not a ton there to keep it entertaining. And the other blue trail that goes down all the way to the road is sick too, but A tier track, just an iconic downhill track. Skyline, definitely S tier. What puts it above Coronet is just the variety. Actually, my favorite thing about Skyline, despite like how good, original to Vertigo, I think is like the main trail, jump trail, flow trail. Like that's an awesome world-class trail, but the downhill tracks at Skyline are sick as fuck. Like it's one of the only bike parks that has downhill tracks that are like really wide and have a ton of line options and are like tech, steep, rough, but you can get really good flow. Like all the drops by like Ant's track that, you know, are a little bit further out on the hill were some of my favorite riding. And I don't know, I think it's like a fun place to ride, but it's also like really technical and demanding and good skill building. And then you have the option to hit, you know, like Vertigo to Original, all those like sick corner and jump trails. I will say Huck Yeah is super overrated. Like I actually kind of hate that trail. It almost killed me. Like I got some bad beta going into it. It's like, oh yeah, it's like pretty freaking trail speed. So like I hit the first little step down, corner, and then it's kind of like a fadeaway step down into the big right hander. And like, dude, I sailed like 15 feet past the landing, full endo. I freaking Ronnie Mac the shit out of it, rode it out, but that could have been like a legit career ender. And I rode the trail a bunch, and like not once did I feel like relaxed down it. I was always like undershooting, overshooting. Like the pros make it look insane, but that trail's sketch as fuck. Like that needs to be torn down and rebuilt. So, I mean, but besides, that's like the worst trail on that mountain. I feel like everything else rips, and you can access some really good riding from the top if you take your trail bike and pedal a little bit. So like it's in the S tier, but everything in the S tier is like a place I could ride my bike for the rest of my life and have enough to like keep me happy. And like Skyline's one of those places. It like is so sick. And then the last one, Cadrona, not quite S tier, kind of similar to Cornet Peak, really quality stuff, not a ton of variety, a bunch of ripping corners. And I think it's good for a day or an afternoon, but it kind of gets stale pretty quick. But yeah, still quality bike park, absolutely rips. Let's go back to the US. Brian Head. I'd say Brian Head is D tier. Maybe F tier. Kind of, it's like along the same lines as Trestle. I went there for a BME race, and it's like, dude, no chance I'm going back there on my own accord. I mean, maybe I have a bad taste in my mouth because when I raced that race, I was so burnt out. I was burnt to a crisp after a huge season, and I got a flat mid-race and was stoked on it so I could leave. But dude, those trails are gnarly. Again, like if you're just trying to ride like gnarly technical stuff, that's a great place to do it. But they're not friendly trails. It kind of just feels like you're getting the shit beat out of you. You know, I'm kind of shitting on US bike parks, so let's rebound a little bit. Purgatory, sick ass bike park. I think that's one of the best bike parks in the US. Again, I went there to race the BME, but those tracks are just quality. The old World Cup track on the front face of the mountain absolutely rips. Like old school, fully wide open ski runs at the top, gets more tech and steep at the bottom. It's just like, it's a full-on legit downhill track. And there's a good amount of options for other trails too, but I just felt like they all had like, they're technical and demanding, but had good flow. I liked the way they carried speed. You didn't really have to work to generate speed that hard. Had good turns, a lot of line choice. I mean, Asa Vermette came out of this place, and it kind of makes sense why he's able to ride the way he does. I mean, you know, it's pretty much all on him, but I think having Purgatory to ride at is like a great place to develop skills and have a lot of fun on the bike. I guess it's missing like a big jump trail, but everything else at the resort is super quality, and you can access like a lot of sick backcountry rides in that area as well. Mount Bachelor, I'll put it in the C tier. It would be going in the D tier if Redline didn't exist. Redline is like the premier jump trail at the resort, and they put a ton of effort into it, and it's really impressive that they brought that trail to life with the terrain they're given. I mean, all these bike parks are just dealt a shit hand when it comes to dirt. Like the stuff on the West Coast here, it falls apart. And Mount Bachelor especially, it's like jagged, volcanic, nasty rock mixed in with like the lightest moon dust powder that I've ever ridden. So that just makes it a kind of a sketchy place to ride. But I think they brought in dirt to build Redline, and that trail rips. It's a super fun jump trail, flows well, has a lot of like unique features that link really well together. But everything else on the trail, besides a few select sections, just feels kind of sketchy. And the downhill track kind of pisses me off. And to be fair, I do think they're doing their best with the terrain they work with, but it's an example of a downhill track that I feel like is built to be gnarly. I think a lot of bike parks make the mistake of just trying to make their downhill track just a gnarly track, especially in the US. And it's like, dude, okay, yeah, like sure, double black diamond, the trail's gonna be gnarly. But I think a lot of these tracks just end up being like slow and sketchy. And it's like, yeah, they're gnarly, but like they just kind of suck to ride and they've got no flow. It's like, yes, there's a place for that here and there, but I feel like if that's kind of the priority, it's just, you're going to make a trail that no one wants to ride. And I think a lot of these US bike parks end up going down that route. My favorite thing about riding downhill bikes is going fast, carrying speed, linking together lines, not just like ping-ponging, BB scraping my way down like sketchy bullshit, It's like, I don't get off on that. Like, I want to have fun riding my bike, and I think there's a balance there. Oh my God, there's a fox. That's sick. Got a little nature preserve. So yeah, little rant there, but like, I feel like a lot of downhill tracks get like locked in to building a trail too gnarly, and it ends up like taking away from the quality of the trail as a whole. But anyway, ride Kanuga. Dude, ride Kanuga is a sleeper. Kanuga is absolutely A-tier material. I had so much fun riding there. There's legit some of the best corners I've ever hit on that mountain. Like, there's this one turn track that just rips from top to bottom. It feels like an XL slalom track. The blue jump line is dope as fuck, flows really good. There's some huge jumps there. Like, there's this one jump that's like maybe one of my favorite jumps in the world. It's like you send yourself into this like huge G out dip. The lip's like 20 feet long, and you just like send it up and over this hill, and it's an absolute floater. And I know they've built like, I think they've expanded on that jump trail and built it top to bottom. There's some really good short technical downhill tracks. Like, it's got it all. Like, I could session trails there all day. And like, yeah, I think Nico's done an incredible job with that mountain, and the amount of quality trails that are packed into like such a small area on like a pretty low elevation hill, I just think is like, they make the most of what they've got out there, and I really enjoy riding there. I mentioned Sun Peaks earlier, but yeah, Sun Peaks is S tier material. Riding Sun Peaks on a downhill bike is a peak experience. It's just like all out smashing, like speed. Like I said, I don't want to be crawling down sketchy bullshit at like 5 miles an hour. I want to be wide open, tapped as fuck, hitting bumps, ripping corners, and that's what Sun Peak is all about. Plus, like the jump trails, like whatever the main one is, if you're looking up the mountain on the left side, I never really got a good feel for it. It's okay, but it's kind of weird. But Super Nugget on the other side of the mountain is like one of the funnest trails I've ever ridden. It's one you really have to invest in. It's not like a gimme like A-Line or Dirt Merchant where you can pretty much cruise down and feel like a boss the first time. But the amount of lines, gaps, options, and ways you can link together the features on Super Nugget is super unique. It's not like much I've ridden before. There's not a ton of huge jumps, but just how the features flow together are so sick once you figure it out. And there's like a follow cam with Matty Miles. I've got a GoPro of it too, but I invested like a lot of time into learning that trail. And once I was able to link it together, it was just like, it made me feel like a boss, because I was like tripling stuff, banking off of walls, cutting insides, just doing like creative stuff all the way down the trail. And it allows you to ride in that way, but it is like a steeper learning curve to get it right. But regardless, Sun Peaks, S tier material, definitely on the must ride list. Whitefish Resort in Montana, I put it in B tier. I don't know, maybe it could be A, but probably not quite. I really like riding there. I've been there twice now. I just don't think they have like a ton of variety. I think like one or two more banging trails and they would get in the A tier, but beautiful part of the country. They've got a couple really sick downhill tracks, a flow trail, which is one of the most like full on high speed, gnarly flow trails I've ridden. Yeah, the berms are huge. You're going so fast and like it's kind of whooped out in some sections, but linking that trail together feels super sick. I rode that on the Banshee Titan with like the super duper long chainstay. Here's your long chainstay reference for you assholes in the comments. But dude, I was doing the hugest drifts and like just feeling so locked in. Like that's one of the places that really sold me on long chainstays. And like, yeah, you know, they're not good everywhere, but going like 30 miles an hour, drifting through like whooped out big ass berms, a 460 chainstay feels awesome. And Whitefish is quality. Big Sky, yeah, I feel like the US bike parks are maybe graded on a bit of a scale, just because I feel like the bar is lower out here. But regardless, I think Big Sky is A tier. Again, went there for the BME, quality race, badass race, decent jump trail, good technical downhill tracks, and a lot of like technical fun downhill style tracks. There's a lot of options there. You know, if there was a tier in between A and B, it would probably sit there, but I'll give it the bump to A tier. Yeah, see, this is the thing. You know what? Big Sky, Purgatory. If I put it against Chatel, like Big Sky doesn't even come close, but that's what I'm saying. I think I'm grading the US bike parks on a curve, but Chatel, insane park. Again, another one of these bike parks that have a trail that is just like completely unique to itself. The Vink line, I'm pretty sure it is, the jump trail there is absolutely insane. It's like the berms on there, it's like, dude, they're fully vert, like huge ass bike park berms that I feel like I'm hitting at like 30 miles an hour. My bike is bottomed out for so long, pulling insane G's through these corners, and then I'm like barely clearing to jump out of it. So you have to like attack that trail, like what it do to link it all together. But like once you do, it's like insane. And I know there's a bunch of other riding on that hill. I didn't spend too much time there, but Chatel is badass. Another one in that area, Pila. Pila is like low-key one of my favorite places to ride in the world. Like I feel like it's kind of a sleeper, but that bike park is sick as fuck. We caught it, I think it was opening day and the dirt was perfect. So maybe I'm like, you know, have a bit of a stronger bias towards it, but just the corners and how the lines on all the trails link together were just so sick. There's like a full-on World Cup level downhill track that they race the IXS Cups on there if you want it, but it's properly gnarly. But the rest of the trails on the mountain just seem to work so well. And then it's a long gondola ride up to an upper mountain where you do most of your laps, but like the trail down from upper mountain to the bottom of the gondola, I feel like it's like a 15 or 20 minute ride down and it rips the entire way down. And there's edits of like Josh Bryceland, Sam Hill, and a lot of other riders over the years riding these trails. And it's like, those are some of the sickest edits on the internet. And there's a reason, like the trails absolutely rip at Pila, super underrated. If you're going to be going to Morzine, you absolutely have to ride Pila. And Aosta Valley Freeride is a shuttle company in the valley where Pila is, and they do huge drops up to the peaks around the valley, and it's like you drop 1,000, 2,000 meters on just the most insane, like old school enduro tech, like ancient trails. And like, yeah, the combination of the bike park and that has to be like one of my most favorite riding experiences. The Fossa, Hit this on the Euro Tour, raced the EWS there in 2021, the doubleheader. I'd say it's B tier. It's more of like a tourism experience. It's like you're not going to be lapping the same trail over and over again, or at least it's hard to do, but like that whole area is wild. You're taking cable cars up to like the most insane, beautiful peaks, and it's like proper enduro style riding. Deer Valley out in Utah. I'd say it's B tier. Quality bike park, nothing really stood out to me. There's fun tracks, a good jump trail. I think enough options to keep you stoked. Maybe I wouldn't seek it out. I don't know. Maybe it's C tier. I think it's more on the level of Northstar, like a Northstar level park in Utah. But maybe in the middle of C and B. Silver Mountain. Again, maybe grading on a curve here, but I'd say Silver's A tier. Raced the NAEC there a couple years, maybe 3, I don't know. But I think Silver is one of the best bike parks in the US. The trails are just tech and badass, but when you get them right, they link together so good. And as a race venue, I think that's one of the most proper races maybe in the world. I haven't raced a ton of EWSs, like I haven't raced around the world, but like that is a world-class level event. They run a track that's like 14 minutes long for the fast times from the very top to the very bottom. And it's not like there's huge pedaling in there. It's just like straight ripping, technical, proper trails from top to bottom. And yeah, the rest of the trails on the hill, it's just like, it's fucking sick. So I'm a fan of Silver. Les Gates, Leger, iconic World Cup track, but I don't know. When I rode there just for fun, I was hella confused. Maybe I just didn't ride the trails, but it's like, dude, if you're in this area, just freaking ride Morzine. Maybe there's some cool stuff at Leger, but it didn't seem easy to navigate, or I just got hella confused because I rode like 1 or 2 trails that were kind of bunk, and then I'm like, what the hell am I doing here? Let's go to Morzine. But yeah, downhill track is dope. But don't think you can ride it. Mount Hood Ski Bowl. This bike park is closed now due to unfortunate circumstances, but I included this here just because I wanted to yap about it. Dude, Ski Bowl S tier. And it just has one downhill track. I mean, there's like 3 tracks on the mountain, but there may as well just be one. And it is like the downhill track from heaven. It is the sickest downhill track I may have ever ridden, like to this day. It started out with this like fast and chunky rock section, and then you rip onto this fire road. You're legit going like 45 miles an hour, nuking down this fire road. And then it has one of the most insane corners I've ever hit in my life. It's this like catcher's mitt berm, but it's like 40 feet long. And you do this setup line for it that's like 20 feet onto a hillside. So you rip up there, and then you're just like chopping down into this berm, whooped out as fuck, going so fast. And it's like, dude, people were clocked in this berm, I think going like 35 or 40 miles an hour. And it's like, that's a feeling I've never experienced anywhere else on the downhill bike. You continue to rip down this fire road, just going insano speed. And then you nuke into this rock garden, and then it's like pretty tech on the way down. Good dirt, and then the bottom is like a sick old school motorway section to the finish. Just like, especially in the US, that's one of the best downhill tracks there is, and it's a shame that the bike park's closed now. But I got a soft spot for Ski Bowl. That was my first professional downhill race. I got absolutely smoked, but yeah, love that place. Weird one, Port Gamble. I'm biased here. I want to put it in A tier. It's kind of on, it's like the West Coast ride Kanuga. Elevation limited, but what they've done with the elevation there is absolutely insane. It is a pedal place, so there's not a chairlift, but they've got a sick big ass jump line, a good blue jump line that's fun to session, a slalom course, a bunch of technical, like short ripping trails, and then they've got this slalom track, Cool Runnings, that is like the most badass slapper berms from top to bottom. I went to the hot laps raced there last year, and it was one of the funnest races I've been to. So if you're in that area, it's absolutely worth checking out. Yeah, I was really impressed. Let's see. Bike Park Champery, Morzine. Kind of like just mountain bike tourism. I only rode the Champery track, so I didn't ride Morzine. I'm sure Morzine is like S tier. That's what I've heard, but I just rode Champery. You know, it's like a novelty track to ride. It's not efficient to lap at all. You got to take this like cable car tram thing up to the top every time. But Champery holds up. It's a technical, steep, demanding track. It's been buffed out over the years, but it still rips hard as fuck. And yeah, iconic track, but that's all there really is there. And then, you know, I should have put this one in earlier. Whistler, S tier. You saw it coming. Yeah, I don't know what there is to say. It's the shit. Like, I spent a couple like almost full seasons at Whistler at this point, and yeah, it's the shit. It kind of beat the crap out of me my last trip there. I had 2 savage crashes, so I think my next trip will be probably limited to mostly dirt merchant and A-line laps. But yeah, A-line lives up to the hype, man. It's one of my favorite trails, and it's like, yeah, it's a cool jump trail, but what I like about it is it's really fast most of the time, and there's hell of lines you can do. Like, the corners are opened up in a way that it's like open to a lot of interpretation, and if you take the time to figure out some setups, it's like you can carve some nasty inside lines, you know, set up on like the side of lips, scrub this one over here, set up wide, and like it just allows the trail to always be fresh, new, and exciting. I, you know, love dirt merchant, but I kind of prefer A-line for that reason, is I feel like there's more creative ways to ride it, and you have like speed to spare. Like, the speed range on that trail is so big that you can get away with taking weird lines and still clear the jumps, or like make it so you have like twice the amount of speed into one jump and you can just scrub the shit out of it. Like, there's just so many ways to ride that trail. And then everything else on the hill is insane. Like, I think the amount of trails on this at Whistler is just the staggering part, and like they're all really good. So Whistler's cool. But yeah, that's about it. I think, you know, these are all worth riding. Like, I'll take riding a chairlift over pedaling any day of the week. So I don't think a bad bike park exists, but for my taste, this is where I rank them. You know, a lot in the A tier. There's like a lot of good bike parks out there. Let me know what bike parks I missed. You know, I haven't ridden all of them. And then, yeah, if you disagree with my sentiment about any of these, let me know in the comments. I'm sure you guys will. But yeah, let me know where I should go next. You know, I'm not at the point where I'm looking to travel to the ends of the earth to go mountain biking right now. But, you know, at some point I probably will be taking some more trips. So let me know, where are the sleeper bike parks out there that are S tier that I don't know about yet. If you like these tier lists, there is actually another one live on Patreon right now that I'm going to keep on Patreon. I talk some smack on mountain bike gear brands and kind of mountain bike swag. So, but I feel like I was a little bit too derogatory to put it out there on YouTube. But if you want my hot takes, hustle over to Patreon and give that one a look. There's some other stuff over there right now too that isn't up on YouTube yet. Besides that, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.